Hey Cubs, welcome back to the channel. Something I've always wanted to try is to make my own bears. As a kid I had a bag of faux fur fabric for years for this, but never actually did it and ended up getting rid of the fabric. So now seeing the perfect opportunity, and especially since designing the punk bears, I thought it's going to be a great opportunity to do it. I found a few patterns that I'm going to test out. I'll probably only do one today and do the others later on in other videos. Just depends how long they actually take me to do. Yeah, so let's get going. This first attempt didn't go quite as I had hoped. Two reasons for that. One was that when I cut out the template and transferred it onto the fabric, I tried to give myself about an inch seam allowance, something like that, and yeah, I didn't keep track of the shapes I was tracing around, so they went a bit wonky. And then when I did duplicates of the same pattern piece, like for the legs, I used the one I had made, so I was basically using a copy of a copy, which is never a good idea. And also, this is just about the only footage that still survives, because I was testing out a new camera I had bought second-hand, and unfortunately it was useless and there were lines all over the image, so it just meant that I couldn't use it and it went back. I should apologise for the scream on this, I just could not find the exact sound I wanted, but I tried. So attempt number 2 started off really well. Redid the template, made it a bit bigger than it had been in the first try, and seemed to work. So again, going back, cutting out all the pieces, tracing around them as carefully as I could, using the tailor's chalk, and yeah, at this point it did seem to be going quite well. I was really happy. There are a couple of places where I noticed some slight curves and things like that that I hadn't noticed first time around. I think it was only one or two, and so that meant I needed to tweak things, but that was fine. And then again, like with the first version of Blizzard, I used the blue and white fabric, because that had always been my intention when I first attempted this. I knew that's the colours I wanted and that was the name I was going to give him. And then it was just a case of stitching everything together. Now at this point I hadn't done much in the way of learning my stitches. I'd learned a couple. There was the ladder stitch and I forget what the other one's called. Oh, the whip stitch, which has a different name in the UK and I always forget what it's called, because I've been watching Puppet Nerds tutorials on sewing, as well as others, and yeah, so I wasn't really sure what to do for the stitching whilst putting this guide together. And part of that is because in the template guide it was actually meant to be machine sewn, which I didn't realise till quite a way into it, because it suddenly said hand stitch. I was like, okay, so we're supposed to be using a machine, but we all know how I get on with the machines. Something I will attempt again at some point, just I haven't got the patience right now. Just so many things went wrong with it, but such is life. So I started going back to the pattern again, putting the ears together like I did first time, and I then attached the ears to the sides of the heads, which, yeah, 2 sides to the head, 2 ears, makes sense, pretty straightforward. one of these days I will learn to keep my hands in shot. But there's going to be a few of these older ones where I haven't. I'm currently setting up my gooseneck on my sewing desk. Basically, I'm just trying to figure out the orientation of the head part. Yeah, just trying to get the angles right so there's not too much tweaking to do in the editing stage. Speaking of editing, this is the video that started all the editing issues that I've been having, and I almost didn't do a voiceover for this one because this has got to be the 50th time I've looked at this footage. You know, testing out new programs and software. I think on Clipchamp I did it twice before I had to give up and where it wouldn't export. Yeah, so I just, yeah, I nearly didn't do it, but I just decided, you know what, let's put it in there. And now I'm knocking my mic about, recording in a slightly different location than I normally do. Yeah, now I've lost my train of thought. I'm doing so well at this today. The heat is not helping, and neither is a lack of sleep due to the heat, but there we go. Yeah, I did have to do quite a bit of this out of sequence, just because of the way I was making him. So once the two sides of the heads were put together, I also had to attach the backs of the head. Again, each piece had a back part, and then there was the gusset down the middle to join everything together. Once the head was put together, then attached the eyes and turned him right. This is where I realised he's still not going well, and I could have given up at this point, but I was determined to see it through because I know each time I do it I'm going to get better, and we've always got to start somewhere, even if that looks atrocious. And that's exactly what I did, you know. But yeah, going back to what I was saying about the process, once the head was done, according to the instructions I was actually supposed to attach the head first to the body, but like I said, because of how I wanted to do it, I ended up attaching the arms first, because the instructions were for a jointed bear, and on this occasion I didn't want a jointed bear. I find jointed bears tend to be a bit stiffer, and I prefer cuddly soft ones like Patches. So yeah, I wanted to try doing it without joints. I may do jointed bears for the punk bears, I'm not sure yet. Just sort of wait and see when I get there. It's going to be a little while before I get there, but once the legs were attached, once the arms were attached, I could attach the head. A lot of back and forth. The stitching, which I just realised I didn't actually say what stitch I used in the end. I don't know that it has a name. It was just simple back and forth stitching. I know it's probably not going to hold up for long. I've since learnt that the best type of stitch for this is the blanket stitch. There we go, just attaching his legs. But yeah, because I was still learning at the time, I just did what felt right to me. And, you know, I was halfway there, just not quite all the way there. But, you know, I think the thing I love most about arts stuff or crafting or anything like that, just making in general, is I love learning as I go, and that's exactly what I've been doing. I've learnt so much from doing these guys. I've lost my train of thought again. Good gravy, this is ridiculous. I'm not even attaching his legs yet. What am I doing? I'm still attaching the head. That did take a long time, I forgot that. And this is sped up 16 times the original speed. I dread to think how long it actually took me to make these guys. You know, just by seeing how much footage there was, and I left quite a lot of the footage out, especially on attempt number 3, because, you know, I didn't think you guys would want to see that all over again, because it's basically the same. There we go, now I'm attaching his legs, finally. And they did end up a bit wonky. I'm not sure how that happened. But, you know, that's the same with most of this guy. I'm not sure how it ended up the way that it did. It just did. But like I said, it's probably because he's meant to be jointed, and I opted to not do that. So, and the way I attach everything was the way I could imagine a Build-A-Bear being put together. So that's probably why he looks as wonky as he does. And I did leave a gap between his legs, that way I could turn him right side out. That did look a bit dodgy, but we won't go into that. But yeah, turning him right side out, make sure everything's where it should be, sort of mostly lined up. There we go, all done and ready for stuffing. Now, if you've seen my first, I think it was the first unboxing, yeah, I got a couple of pillows from the internet. They're really cheap, to use the stuffing out of those for stuffing the bears, because bear stuffing's almost double the price what I paid for these pillows, and it's the exact same stuff. So that's what I'll be doing in the future as well, at least for the time being. You know, when you're first starting a new craft and you've got a lot of stuff to buy, you do it in the cheapest way you possibly can. And there we go, just sewing between his legs. Honestly, creating bears, just some of the poses and stuff that you get from it, it just looks so awkward and so painful sometimes. Especially with the way I measured the distance between the two eyes. I poked one of my huge teddy bear needles from one side of their head to the other, just to make sure the eyes ended up level with each other. Not that that mattered, because his head wasn't level in the end anyway, so, you know, I tried. And oh yeah, the tail wasn't in the pattern. I think I used the ear pattern in the end to create this, because I really prefer bears that have got tails on them. They just look so much better, I think. They look far more complete, and bears do have tails, so it's kind of necessary, I think, you know, for a proper teddy bear. And he's just about done, I think. Tail's almost there. Definitely looks overstuffed though, doesn't he? Whereas the other one, he's just so floppy. But never mind. Oh yeah, and I added a fabric nose on him. What I wanted to do was something a bit like Patches has, where it looks like it's stuffed and it's not a plastic thing, because I didn't have any plastic noses at this point. This video is from way earlier in the year, as you can probably tell by the fact I'm still wearing a hoodie, and we're currently like 3 weeks into a heat wave. So yeah, I just put a little bit of stuffing in. It looks okay, it's not perfect, but you know, it worked for him. For others, I'll definitely try again, decide how I want to do it. I've got a couple of plastic noses now. Whether or not I'll use those, I don't know. We'll just have to wait and see. So attempt number 3, I'll just show you quickly. It was a case of sewing his ear together, attaching that to his head, and then just go through attaching his tail to his body. Rest of the steps were all the same. Another slight difference I made was that I noticed again on this attempt that I'd missed a few curves and sort of nicks again in the pattern that I hadn't seen even on the second time round. So I think that added to how he ended up looking a bit more bear-like than the previous two. Attempt, I'm not too disappointed with the results of these guys. I mean, the ghoul here, it was obvious he wasn't going to look like a bear at all, just because of the things that went wrong with his pattern when I cut that out. But, you know, got to start somewhere. Then the fish came second, getting warmer. Stuffed really well, a lot better than the ghoul. I attempted something with the eyes, not massively keen on those, just because it is kind of slightly above my skill level with paint, or not really paint but detailing. You know, I'm not great at humans, as I've mentioned before, but I just wanted to give it a try, see how it came out. I don't know what went wrong with his ears, I really don't. Why they ended up down there, because that's not where I put them. But yeah, slight improvement on the ghoul. And finally, Muscles. He is the closest to looking like a bear, which I'm really pleased about. And I really like the shade of blue I've done for his eyes. I didn't do a mouth on him. I may add one at a later date, I don't know yet. But I think, like I say, for a first attempt, they're not bad. Well, he's not bad. I will revisit him again at a later date, or remake his design, probably using a different template. I've got 2 other templates to test out, which I'm going to do. I think they might work a bit better than this one. We'll just have to wait and see. But that's it for this one, Cubs, and I will see you in the next one.